to talk about two things. Um,
Okay.
okay, I know you guys were
Yeah.
talking about golf before, so we, but not
Yeah.
what handicap you guys are, but why you're doing some phenomenal work for people that are in the golfing circles, caddies
Yes.
especially. Talk a bit about that
Mm.
and your impact and your influence there.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for also for this question. So I mean, Ed, you were saying that you started golf when you were in your 30s.
Mhm.
I picked up a golf club for the first time when I was 63 years old, 10 years ago.
Wow.
And again, it was one of those things where people said to me, Jeff, you know, at age 63, you must forget it. You don't know how difficult this thing is.
Jeff doesn't listen to anybody, does he?
Yeah, but I don't listen. I said, you know, I mean, bugger you, I'm gonna pick up this golf club and I'll see, you know. And you know, it is such a wonderful privilege for me that even today at at age 73, I don't play off the senior tees. I play with much younger guys from the same tees. I can hit the ball as far as they hit the ball, you know. In fact, I always say to them, guys, I'm 70 now. You know, you should allow me to play from the front tees, but they won't allow me to play.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So it is just such a wonderful privilege. And now here's the very, very fascinating thing for me. So when I started playing golf some 10 years ago, and you know, naturally I would talk to my golf caddies. And I played on probably more than 20 golf courses in the country over the last, probably 25, more than 25 golf courses in the country over the last decade. So wherever I play, you know, I talk to the golf caddies, and they were telling me about how tough their lives are, you know. And when I kind of examined it, I discovered that they are working today under the dispensation that was put in place by the British during the British colonial rule. Can you believe it? Right? Now, you know, the Brits obviously during the British colonial rule, when they brought caddies onto golf causes. They didn't regard them as fully human. The thing. Okay, I'm back. So the Brits didn't regard colonial rule, didn't regard golf caddies, black people in general, as full human beings and so on. So they basically brought these guys onto the golf course, said you're going to be self-employed. You'll only get paid when you have a golf bag to carry, right? And they were paid a pittance. So that is the system of self-employment that was introduced during British colonial rule. And then during the apartheid era, the system was maintained for the same reason, because, you know, the apartheid government didn't care about them. I mean, it's the same mindset. But what boggled my mind was that almost 30 years after the new democratic, you know, government, absolutely nothing has changed for the golf caddies. They work under exactly the same conditions. You only get paid when you get a golf bag, right? And often they don't get golf bags. So their lives are incredibly hard. And so I then decided to become an advocate for change. And I've learned over the years that, you know, if you want to really make an impact as a change advocate, you have to get yourself organized. So I then established a not-for-profit company called Finding the Fairway Foundation. I drew in some like-minded individuals, and I'm going to say we're now going to use this company that we've established to drive change for the golf caddies. I commissioned a documentary that I paid for personally, you know, on the plight of golf caddies. The documentary is actually called Finding the Fairway, where I kind of, you know, sketched the problem and all of that. That's the name of the documentary. And as I'm speaking to you, you know, I'm still on the journey, because I'm meeting with a lot of resistance from the industry, right? Because they clearly want to maintain the current situation, dispensation, because it's cheap for them. And what essentially happening is that these poor golf caddies are subsidizing players like me, because I ought to be paying a bit more so that they could have a better life, you know. So I'm a change advocate. I'm still dealing even today with levels of resistance that's hard to describe. I'm very well known across golf courses in the country for this reason, and everyone hates my guts, but I don't care. I don't care, and
I
I
don't hate
genuinely
you. I
believe,
love you.
I don't care, and I genuinely believe, that at the end of the day, justice will prevail. I'm reminded, and I make this, I put this quote out there, in my book as well, that Martin Luther King inspired me as well, right? And he says that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it always bends towards justice, you see? So for me, my takeaway from that is that we certainly live in a moral universe. I mean, that's my takeaway from that. And that's why all of us have a moral compass, right? Where does it come from? You have to live somewhere in a kind of a moral universe. And I generally believe when he says that although the arc is long, it always bends toward justice. And so everything I tackle, I just have this belief that I just need to persevere and that justice will prevail in the end, right? But also when I look at what I'm doing, right, I don't have an expectation that the change will come in my lifetime in the same way that Martin Luther King didn't have an expectation. All he was able to say is that I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen the promised land, that's all he could say. And for me, I kind of feel that I might not see the final result of my advocacy around a better life for caddies, but even when I'm not there, someone else will pick up the cudgels, and then in the end, justice will prevail. So I take a very long view of what.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because I first of all, I never thought about it, and I never even heard about it. When the pro golf circuits, like the PGA, comes to South Africa, were the caddies still being paid the exact same way?
Yeah, on the pro circuit, they get a percentage of the price, right? They get a percentage. And there on the pro circuit, because of that, they get the reward system is different. And because of that, you would have black and white caddies, right?
Mm.
But at the club level, so I'm not talking about caddies at club level, because of this dispensation, they're 100% black caddies. White people won't come and work under these conditions. This is just slave labor, and it's cheap labor,
It's
and
actually
it benefits the clubs, it benefits the player, because as a financial person, Ed, you would know that there's a layer of cost that's not factored in. So I'm paying less of a subscription than I ought to pay because that layer of cost
is not there.
So I'm paying less. And so what does it mean? It effectively means that I'm a fairly, I don't want to say I'm a wealthy guy, but I'm not poor, right? Why should a golf caddy subsidize me? It should be the other way around, right?
Yeah.
So, but they are effectively subsidizing us. And so anyway, yeah, so I'm on that path, I'm on that journey. And I think, again, it was probably serendipitous, that I got into this golf thing, a decade ago. And I'm kind of driving this change. And I must just give you this one example that 2 years ago, the club where I'm a member, which is the Johannesburg Country Club that I'm speaking about, I was a member there for 3 years. But for most of that time, I just used it for lifestyle purposes. I was entertaining clients and all of that until I started playing golf. And then about 2 years ago, they asked me to stand for an election to get onto the governing body of the club, which I did. Stood for an election, got great support from the members. I was elected. And when I started this advocacy, they kicked me out. I kid you not. No, they kicked me out. I mean, in mid-2022, they said, no, you must go because, you're just creating havoc. And then I said, because I was just pushing this agenda of a better life for caddies too hard, and too much for their liking. And then, of course, I didn't make a big fuss about it. I just said, okay, fine, you want me to leave, I'll leave. And I left.
So when your name pops up at certain clubs, are you banned at certain clubs?
Well, let me first of all tell you what happened in my club, at the point when they kicked me out. they said to then the one guy says to me, because I mean like I'm generally a nice guy, I'm a calm guy, but I can also get very angry.
We all can.
And
There's
then
light and
and
dark in
then
each of
and
us.
this guy says to me, a lot of people don't see the anger, I have a way of masking it and so on. But anyway, and this guy says to me, if you continue with this advocacy, we are going to pull you before a disciplinary committee and we may expel you from the club. And I basically said, you know what, to myself, I wish you could do that, because it will give me an opportunity to put this whole thing out in the public space, you see, where we can really have a serious conversation. And I've written a whole chapter in the book on this, and I name the club, and I tell in the book exactly how I left the governing body in the hope that they will do something about it. But someone very smart must have said to them, don't do it. It's exactly what Van Rooyen wants you to do. So I've heard nothing from them.
I love your courage.
Yeah.
I love the way you navigate the spaces. You're not there
Yeah.
to be loved, but you do your best to be
No.
able to make life easier for most people. Ms. Van Rooyen, that documentary, where is it? How can people access it?
If you go to www.findingthefairway, one word, .org, right? There is a way that you can then access the documentary,
Sure. Fabulous.
or like in your particular case, you and Ed, I will send you the link. Okay, so but just generally for people, if they want to, that's where the website is. But in your particular instance, I'll send you the link, and you can. It's only a 21-minute documentary, but it gets really straight to the heart of what the issue is.
And that's what we need. We need to use different mediums to be able to get to the heart of an issue to create more awareness. It's actually
Exactly.
sad, though, that people of that caliber that's running the club did not have a conversation around it as to how to improve. And the only tactic was expel the guy that's actually advocating for change. So
Yeah.
there's lack of compassion, lack of desire for change, and just once again, the desire to self-serve is so evident in
I'm
Well, I
the
must
way
just
this
say,
played
Ed,
out.
the one of the challenges that we have today in this country is that there are still pockets in our society where white males still rule the roost.
and that's what I was
And
about to ask you about the
golf
club.
clubs. I was the only black male on that golf committee, on that governing body. I was the only black male, and most of the clubs, 99% of the clubs in the country, the majority of the members of governing bodies are white males, right? So when I make this point, I'm not making this point because I want to create division, right?
Yeah.
But I'm making the point that they still remain trapped in the past. They are still shackled by our history of colonialism and apartheid. And the point that I'm making to them, right, is that we can do better, and we need to find a way. We cannot remain trapped in the past. And as much as I'm not remain trapped in the past, I'm
You
just
could be
using my past experience
to
to
share.
help build a different society. And so that's the message that I'm putting across to them. I'm not trying to poke a finger in your eye, but I'm reaching out so that you and I can work together to create something better and do better for the golf caddies. But they're not buying that message as yet. For them, they're just clinging to the past. They clinging to white privilege. They clinging to the power. They clinging to the authority. But the difference between South Africa and the United States, Ed, is that in this country, we are by far the majority. We are a population of some 65 million, less than 5 million white folk. So it's just a matter of time, just simple mathematics, simple arithmetic. They cannot sustain their current privilege. It's just as simple as that. It's
So I
just a
sit
matter of
here.
time. Yeah.
So I sit here and laugh because we have a demographic. They see the handwriting on the wall. There's a demographic